I had many paranormal experiences growing up, so I thought, why not share it? Ever since it was built, my house has been haunted. So it wasn't the house, it was the land. It was a pretty big property, around 8 canals, 40,000 square feet, and around it were just fields. In a radius of around 1 kilometer, there was no population. There were around 6 to 7 people who worked on our property full-time to maintain it, and every single one of them had a story to tell. So, when the house was being built, construction workers used to see this weird animal who looked like a rabbit. When they went to catch it, it would turn into a rapper flyaway in the air and would just vanish. Yes, a rapper, that animal would suddenly turn into an object and vanish. This story has been told to me by 3 different people over the years. When me and my siblings were little, my mother used to hear the jingling of anklets at night. My father was always away on business trips, and helpers were not allowed inside the residential property, so we used to be alone. There was no one inside the house, and the jingling sounds and sounds of people running around in the lounge were always heard. Things took a major turn when we grew older. One time a maid suddenly came over to my mother and asked her, "Yes, ma'am. What is it?" My mother gave her a confused look, and she said, "You called for me." My mother never did. She told her you were standing on the stairs staring at me, and when I asked, "Do you want anything, ma'am?" you just gestured for me with your hand to come to you. I completed my work and came. When my mother told her that I didn't call you, I was in my room the whole time, and her face turned pale. Another time I was alone in my home, and I heard a door opening and then closing. Imagine those doors that have a door closer on them and are made of wood. They make a big sound when they are closed. When I heard it, I went downstairs to check, and the door was closed and everything was normal. I thought maybe it was air, which is sus, because air can't open a wooden door, but that was just me coping. I closed all the windows shut, so there was no air coming from anywhere, and went up. The moment I was on my last step, I again heard the sound of the door opening and then closing. Now I was beginning to realize this is some jinn type shit. I just stood there for like a minute, but again went downstairs anyway. I was in the middle of the stairs, and I saw that the door was just hanging in between. Like not closed, but not open. That was impossible, as the door had a door closer on it, and who the heck would have opened it? All the doors and windows were locked, no human, and no air. I just stood there a bit frozen and taken aback. I looked at the door for like 5 seconds, and then boom, it closed itself with a bang. Like a person just shut the door hard. I just ran upstairs and increased the volume of TV so I won't hear this shit any longer. One time, I was awoken by a large banging sound, like someone is banging the door very hard. The sound was coming from the lounge, which was a bit far from my room. It was around 2 to 3 a.m. maybe. I went to check on it. I was surprised that why isn't anyone else woken up, as the sound was very loud, but I didn't give it much thought. When I reached the door, I was so shocked. The sound was coming from behind the door, as if someone was banging on it, but as loud as the sound was, the door was not vibrating. It was still. Again, I stood there thinking, what the hell is happening? I was convinced it was the thief or something, so I peeked through the window that was beside the door, and there was no one there. The sound was still coming, but there was no one behind the door. It was a very strange experience. But as I said that we had been experiencing these things since childhood, I just turned and went back to my room to sleep. There was this one thing that used to happen regularly. Whenever one of us was sleeping alone in a room at night, they used to pull the toe of our foot. I swear to God this happened too many times. I lost count. Another thing that usually happened to my mother was that she was slapped on her leg, even if we were in the room. She would wake up and angrily ask, "Did you just slap me?" I will sit there cluelessly, and then we will both give each other that knowing look and go back to our work. And the most strange part is that I used to get dreams about the strange types of darkness lingering in our house. One would say that my mind was just playing games on me, but hear me out. One time, I had a dream that there were a bunch of children BW the ages of 3 to 6 sitting on our lawn eating raw meat. The kids' clothes and bodies were very dirty, and they were just devouring the meat they had in their hands. I woke up feeling weird, but didn't say anything. I went to the lawn to get some fresh air and saw that there was a trash bag there. I didn't give it much thought and went to the main lounge to eat breakfast. As I was eating, my mother came to me looking a bit uncomfortable and told me that when she woke up for Fajr, she found a cluster of meat in our lawn. Like take a bunch of meat and press it tightly together. That's when I told her about my dream, and both of us were just speechless. In 2016, my girlfriend and I decided to go on our first vacation together. We booked a 3-night stay at the Belmont Hotel, not its real name, which was a historic hotel in the old part of the city. It was an elegant manor-style home from the 1850s, and parts of the property looked from that period. Massive staircases, parlor room, and original furniture throughout. On our first day, we did the usual touristy stuff. Exhausted, we settled into our room and crashed for the evening. Our first night, we barely slept. My girlfriend and I were both uncomfortable sleeping in the room and felt like someone was watching us. A few hours later, around 3 a.m., we were abruptly woken up to a very loud sound coming from above our room. It sounded like someone was pulling or pushing a large piece of furniture. The stuttering of wood on wood and the creaking was unbearably loud. This went on ad nauseum for a while, that we were totally awake thinking someone was working upstairs like a staff member, moving furniture or rearranging the room. We were both dumbfounded, sitting upright in our beds, waiting for this to end. Second day was more touristy stuff, didn't think much of the previous night. The second night, we were zonked and went to sleep early. This night was strangely similar. We woke up around the same time to the exact same creaking, stuttering of furniture or something being moved around above us. It eventually stopped like yesterday, and we managed to fall back asleep. The next thing I remember is my girlfriend waking me up abruptly saying, "What are you doing?" I awoke standing in the middle of the room in the dark, unpacking my bag angrily and throwing our clothes into the air. I snapped at her for asking me what I was doing and interrupting me. I was frustrated and agitated on waking. Suddenly, I vaguely remembered what I was doing, almost like a dream on waking, and you try to hang on to your dream. I sat on the bed and explained that I was looking for a key in the room, and I remembered wandering around the room desperately searching the walls, floors, and furniture with my hands in the dark. I was getting more disturbed the more I explained this to my girlfriend. The idea that I was alone in this dark hotel room doing this really frightened me because I had no control. Needless to say, we decided to call it early and head home and end our vacation. We drove the full 4-hour drive home that night in pitch darkness and fog. I called the hotel that morning to check out early. Speaking with the front desk, I mentioned the loud noises coming from above our room. She replied, "There is no room above yours. It's an attic space, and no staff would have been there at that time." I mentioned that it sounded like someone was dragging furniture on hardwood. She said there was lots of furniture stored up there. I asked her if the hotel was haunted, and she responded reluctantly that she had heard other similar stories.